The Eastnor Church Tower appeal has been an inspiring example of how the people of a small village can set about the preservation of an historic building at the heart of their community and its development for more effective use by both local people and visitors. This film draws on the views and experiences of key members of the team who energised and led the project. We're most grateful to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for their major and enabling contribution to the work. James Harvey Bathurst is chairman of the Eastnor Church Tower Appeal Committee and also secretary of the Eastnor Parochial Church Council. He has strong emotional ties to the church through his family's long association with the building. James, I'm interested in knowing how it all began. Take us through that.
Well, it began inevitably with a rather damning quinquennial report which said that the tower was in danger. And then once we started raising money, particularly after we were lucky enough to get the Heritage Lottery Fund, we were able to go to others who saw that we were serious. We had a bigger project than expected. The bells that you can hear ringing now needed to be rehung. We wanted to add a servery for people to have refreshments before and after services, and particularly we needed to add a WC and a storage room just because the church was getting cluttered. So the project did grow, and partly because we were successful in raising money at the beginning, other people were prepared to contribute, and then we had the funds for most of what we need to do, but there's still...
Mary Ann Keyes was recently a governor at Eastnor Primary School. She has come to the school today to ask some of the children about their experiences of the church and its activities.
So, good morning. We have Lily, and we have Joe, and we have Alex, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about what's been going on at Eastnor Church. So I'm going to start with a question about why you go from school into church in the first place. And Joe, you're going to kick us off.
We go to church to learn about Jesus and God, and sometimes we go there on special occasions to recite poems for Mother's Day and Father's Day.
That's lovely. Wow. Alex, what else?
We go to church 3 times a week for different assemblies, and one of them is where Reverend Joan comes and talks to us a bit about Christianity and how it started.
And one of them is something else, isn't it, Lily?
We go on Mondays to open the book, and we dress up and help other children to understand how the story is.
I'm here with Lucy Watson, a teacher at Eastnor School, and she teaches Year 5 and 6 in particular. And I want to ask her first, in what ways the church next door to the school has been in any way an educational resource for the school, and whether the recent work that's been done is going to make it a better resource. Lucy, tell us about that.
So we're so lucky to have the church on site as a Christian school, and we use it as much as we can in various ways. Of course, we go there for assemblies 3 times a week, and we have Reverend Joan, who's a wonderful link with the local church community. We use it for local history, certainly, when we're learning about the history of the castle and the estate. We tie that in with the history of the village. So it's lovely. We go over there and do sketching, grave rubbings. We learn about the churchyard. Receptions learn about family occasions and christenings, and they use the church there to do little practice christenings with Reverend Joan so that they understand about those sorts of family occasions. We use it as much as we can.
So it sounds as though it's a lot to do with how the church fits into the community.
Definitely, yeah.
Lucy, you are well aware, because you're right next door, that there's lots of work being going on in the church. And tell us how you hope the school might benefit a bit from all that.
Well, it's been lovely to have the bells back, first and foremost, and for the children to be invited over to see those put back in place. Sort of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, really, to see them out initially. And they saw them out before they went to be repaired and once they were back. And I really think they will remember that as a part of their young life. And then we're really looking forward to having a loo in church when we go over there, particularly with 100 young children. If anybody needs the loo, we have to nip back to school or they have to sort of wait. So that will mean that we can be over there for longer and not need to nip back. So that will be brilliant.
Lucy, I know you have a particular interest in history, and part of the outcome of the work in the church is the establishing of a new heritage trail. Tell us a bit how that might be useful to you.
Well, it will be a lovely resource that will be ready-made for us to go over and use. Children have enjoyed using the trails in the past. We've had one for Easter, and they love the idea of doing a sort of a treasure hunt.
I'm here now in Eastnor School with Sarah Tart, who's the acting head at present. And I'm going to ask her first, Sarah, how would you describe the role that Eastnor Church plays in the community at Eastnor?
Okay, I think it's really important that the parents know that we are a community, because I know we are from quite a long way out. Some people come from Newark, Malvern, but the church brings everybody together, you know, especially we have our services and all the rest of the things we do in there, so it is a community feel.
Recently the bells came back and were all lined up in the churchyard on a lovely sunny day, and the children came over to see them, which is a rare opportunity. What was their reaction? What do you remember them thinking of it all?
Right, they were so exciting, I think, because they hear them every week, but they don't actually realise just how big they are and how solid they are and how many. I think that was one of the things we decided, was how many bells there were and the different sounds they made, and the fact they're now part of history. You know, the children are part of the history of Eastnor by going to see those bells, because that, I presume, won't ever happen again in their lifetime. They'll be refurbed.
Joan Wakeling is an assistant priest at Eastnor Church and also works very closely with the school. She leads school assemblies in the church every week. Joan, tell us your role in the church firstly, and then how that links with the school.
Well, I came here as a retired priest. I was asked to take a special interest in the village here, and I've been here now 7 years and dug in, and we all know each other extremely well. We're building community, and the school is part of that community. They come over to the church every day because the church is the biggest space in the whole village. So they come and use it for all sorts of things, and I go into the school and teach them once a week at least, and I take major services and get to know the children and the parents, so we've got a very good relationship.
Is the church any better equipped now to tell visitors about its history?
We have a tremendous amount of visitors. You wouldn't believe it in a little place like this, but they come for the castle, they come to walk their dogs over in the deer park, and there are quite a lot of footpaths that actually literally go past the church. And so all day, every day, there are visitors popping in. If I'm here, they immediately say, tell me about the church and its history. And there is a little card they can have a look at. But we're going to have a video put in, which will be a much more interesting way to tell them about what is actually a very interesting church and its heritage, its history.
Juliet Rowland is a member of the Parochial Church Council at Eastnor. Her particular interest is in developing educational materials and activities relating to the church to enrich the experience of local school children and of visitors. Juliet, as one of the core team, I know that your particular input into this project has been the Discovery Trail and a guidebook associated with that. Tell us a bit about what those cover and involve.
So the Discovery Trail we produced with the help of the Arts Society, who have a very helpful template for these sorts of things. And we looked at a number of aspects of the church, things like the windows, the monuments, even the floor, and looking at the font. We've had a number of children come through and do practice runs, and on a very special day in July last year, the school came and the bigger children, so the 11-year-olds, were looking after the little ones and running around getting so excited as they found the answers to the questions just by looking, because they don't need it, there was no knowledge necessary, they could find the answers by looking around the building.
It'll be great to see all this hard work and research pay off, and in a couple of years' time, what might be the evidence of that this was all doing the job that you intended?
Well, I hope very much that not only will people be able to come and learn about this church through the Discovery Trail and looking around it and seeing what is here, but also having learned a bit about this church, being able to go elsewhere and use the information that they've got from here about other buildings and other churches.
Ian Stainburn is a retired conservation architect who's been very involved in the planning and evolution of this project. Ian, the first question I have for you is what kick-started this whole project? Why was it seen as important?
Two reasons, really. First of all, and perhaps the one that really set the thing in motion, was the fact that the tower of the church was on the Historic England buildings at risk register because of the condition of the masonry and the roof.
But the facilities in the church have been enhanced too, and with what in mind? Just to tell us a bit about how the improvements in the church will improve the experience of those who come here.
For the regular congregation, but also for visitors, particularly for weddings when they come from far afield, and also the quite intensive use by the primary school across the road. Facilities, WC and catering facilities are very significant things in many places, and many churches are installing them all over the country to the benefit of everybody who visits.
Ian, the work to the clock face has formed part of the project. Tell us briefly about that.
Yes, it did. The clock face was quite badly deteriorated. We're not sure how long ago it was last regilded and painted, but it was fairly indistinct. And not only that, the mechanism for the hands was in quite poor condition. So part of the project was to make the clock work properly, to tell the time, and the conservation of the dial was done by the conservator Philippa Fawcett, who was blessed with good weather, so that we didn't have gold leaf flowing all over Eastnor.
Alan Bagworth is the ringing master at the church, and very experienced not only as a bell ringer, but also in many of the practical aspects of bell maintenance and repair. Alan, the bell installation looks lovely now, everything new and working well, but it wasn't like that not long ago. Why was it necessary to do this work on the bells?
In April 2019, we were ringing the bells one day when we had an almighty crash and the tenor gudgeon broke. Now this is the axle on which the bell rotates, which is at this point on the frame. Now at that time, all the bells had wooden headstocks and wheels and other fittings which dated pre-1900, and they were in a poor condition, and we obviously had to do something to recover the situation. Following the incident, we consulted the diocesan bell advisor, and in his report he recommended that all the 6 bells be rehung in the present frame, which was to be repainted, with new fittings which included headstocks, wheels and clappers. And this report was accepted by the PCC, tenders were invited, and we were able to place an order with a well-known bell hanging company based near Oxford called Whites of Appleton.
Alan, a lot of money can be saved in this sort of project by getting volunteers to help with some of the practical work, as long as they know what they're doing. I think you had a very effective team to help you in this, didn't you?
Yes. Due to COVID, the work on the bells wasn't able to start until after Easter in 2021, and local volunteers helped the bell hangers dismantle all the fittings and lowered the bells and helped load them on the lorry. The reverse happened when all the bells were returned, and we were able to give strong assistance to the bell hangers to reinstall the bells in the frame.
John Middleton is an experienced conservation architect who has been project architect for both the work on the tower and for the new facilities in the church. His company specialises in the repair, conservation and adaptation of historic buildings and new design in historic settings. John, part of your work in this project is what one might describe as necessary work to the fabric of the church, and part of it is more in the desirable category. Could you just talk a bit about those two elements of the work?
Yeah, we had two elements really. The tower was in deteriorating condition. It was suffering from some decay in the masonry. I think one of the key things was to take a light touch. We have quite a contrast between the medieval tower and the Victorian Gothic main part of the church, and our works were to conserve and repair, to retain that contrast and that character. The tower itself is now in a much better state. In addition to that, we repaired the clock face and the weather vane.
John, the works inside the body of the church, the newer bit of the church, as you've just described, are not so much essential, but they are very much to do with making the church a more usable space, more attractive. Just tell us a bit about your brief there.
Yes, we were to provide toilet facilities and kitchen servery facilities to help a wider use of the church and provide more comfortable surroundings. And we looked at the church and the layout and felt that the best area would be to provide a new building on the north side, which houses a fully accessible disabled toilet and also an access out onto the north side, with a servery and kitchen facilities in the north aisle.
John, you've worked in many old buildings and churches in particular. What excited you particularly about this one, both before and during the project?
I think we were very taken with the church in such beautiful surroundings, and the opportunity to conserve and repair and secure the fabric, and also to work with and provide facilities for the wider community and the church itself to help them into the future.
Beverly Jones is church warden at Eastnor and is particularly keen that this project should promote the use of the church in the community. Bev, tell me roughly how many people visit the church each year.
The number of people, both adults and children, who come through this church is just under 9,000 a year, and that averages out at about 172 people a week. And until now, we've had no water and no toilet facilities to offer to anyone that comes here.
The chance to have a catering facility in the church, Bev, seems to be a really important part of this project. What difference do you hope that will make?
Yes, it is really important, because part of the life of the church is the community and people coming together. After a service, we provide refreshments, light refreshments, and not everyone stays because we don't have the facilities for them to use. And this, of course, also extends out into other community events, which at the moment we are unable to do because we don't have the water or the toilet facilities to be able to welcome people. It compromises our ability to welcome people to the church.
What sort of events do you think will be particularly enabled or enhanced by having these facilities?
Well, the events that we have at the moment are limited to Easter and Christmas. We have a candlelit Christmas event where we have mulled wine afterwards. And we would hope to be able to do some concerts and just have more welcoming of the community.
Charles White is a member of the Parochial Church Council and has been particularly involved in fundraising for this project. Charles, this has clearly been a most rewarding project, and would you like to say in what ways for you it has been so?
The first thing really is to highlight how pleased and grateful we are to have been able to preserve and enhance such an important village asset, the church, which in the future we much look forward to using in a much more varied way, involving more members of the community and also making it more usable by visitors and those who come to get married. Second thing is how the project has brought the community together. The project team, we have been very lucky to have a wealth of experience and diversity, and they have been very generous in their time supporting the project in all ways. We've also been able to rely on a huge amount of support from the wider community. We've arranged a number of events which all the community have participated in, quiz nights, concerts, and we very much hope that these will be part of the legacy of the project. The other support we've had from the community extends to the bell ringers, who I know you have interviewed already, but the support and help and time they have given to bring the bells down, to help paint and put the bells back has been invaluable and enabled us to save an awful lot of money. We've had support and help from the parents at the school. One parent, who is a professional photographer, has spent a long time photographing the heritage items in the church, and they are now available to many via the website and also in the guidebook that has been put together. So the final point to highlight is how lucky and grateful we are to have had the support and the benefit from the amazing generosity of bodies like the National Lottery Heritage Fund and from the Herefordshire Historic Churches Trust, whose support has been invaluable in helping to complete the project, and without which it would not have been possible.
Charles, you mentioned the word legacy previously, and that's such an important part of any project like this. Tell us what you think the legacy, the best bits of the legacy of this project will be.
Well, Tim, as we sit here, I can hear someone playing the organ behind us. The organ was restored, I think, 20 years ago with a grant from the National Lottery. I hope, looking back in 20 years' time, people standing here might be evidencing use of the church in the way that it is right now by people enjoying visiting, coming to concerts and attending other social events. I think that will be the real test, and it is testament of the success of these projects to hear a part of the church being used as we sit here 20 years on from the restoration. And I think we'll be really, really pleased if we can look back and see the same in 20 years' time.
James, you're standing in front of the pretty well completed extension to the church, which represents one of the last bits of this project. And I want to ask you what you think will be the lasting benefits of what your team and the contractors together will have achieved in this project.
The benefits of restoring the church as we have, and particularly the tower, is that it will last for, we hope, another 600 years. The tower is 13th century, and if we hadn't restored it, it would have started to fall down. I've been leading the project to restore the church, and it's been a great experience because lots of people in the village have joined the committee and worked with me. We've had generous donations from a number of charities and also, of course, from the Lottery Fund.
James, this project has benefited from the generosity of a number of people. Why in this particular case do you think people were prepared to be generous?
Well, I think this is a very good historic building. It's a combination of 13th century church tower with a 19th century addition by George Gilbert Scott. So it's got an interesting heritage in itself. But I also think people see it as something that everybody in the village uses, from school children to older people, and it's very much at the heart of the village.